you need truth and life. Here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, listeners? This is your boy, Brother Leon, and you are tuning into another episode of the Brother Leon Show. So today, guys, we are doing another Work Truck Chronicles. Yes! And I am glad to be back on my truck. That's the God knows truth, man, because I've been without my truck for a while. I was using a loaner and everything, but we are definitely back home. It was a little bit of hiccup and everything like that, but we are back. So I want to give you a Work Truck Chronicle to celebrate us being back home, because the one thing you got to look at is that your workplace, where you spend 40, 60, sometimes 80 hours a week, maybe even more, is just like home. And the thing about it is that if you are on a truck, you want to try to keep that truck clean. You want to try to keep that truck sanitary. And the type of work that I do, I work for a municipality and I clean sewer lines when I'm not on this microphone. So, yeah, working in sewage, trying to dodge COVID. Yeah, I want to try to keep my area clean, but I ain't gonna lie. Some people, man, they just trifling and they feel entitled to just mess up people's stuff regardless of who they are, and don't matter. But I look at it like this. Sometimes you have to get to the place where you have to say something. Seriously. Because you cannot complain about the things that you allow. And so, you know, whether it means confronting that person, whether it means using the chain of command, don't allow it. Because if you continue to allow it and don't say anything, then that means you're in agreement with it. Seriously. And I tell people, hey, if you ain't in agreement with it, change it, talk about it, bring it to the forefront. But the crazy thing about it is that what you have to do is confront it. Nothing has changed until you confront. So today I want to talk about the word nigger. Hard R nigger. Not nigga. Nigger. Hard R. Like my kids say. Because I was just reading and looking over in the news that there was a black Florida resource police officer who was fired because his body camera picked up the fact that he was having a conversation on the phone and the word nigger came out his mouth. And so the crazy thing about it is that I'm like, y'all gonna fire a black man over using the word nigger when there's so many white people that use that word. And then the crazy thing about it is that it is a cop. So my question is this. You can choke out a nigga. You can shoot a nigga. You can beat a nigga halfway to death. And the white cop gets to go home, gets desk duty, gets cleared of charges. But here it is, a black cop that says nigger, no physical altercation, ain't kill nobody. He gets fired. That is hypocrisy in itself. And that's the God knows truth. Because what it says is we see what these other men are doing, and it's almost like, well, hey, if we can't say it, then he can't say it. And if he says it, then he needs discipline. And that's the thing that really gets me when it comes to certain work areas and spaces, is that as a black person and person of color, you have to walk a fine line. And then you are expected to hold up a level of excellence and a level of standard that's not even given to other people. You have other people, white people, at times, and I'm not saying all, but some, they done been on their third, second chance. And some of them, man, they couldn't pass a drug test, but some reason or why, they are still around. But you know somebody, as soon as they come up dirty first time, they fired. But here it is, you got a person can't even piss in a cup, come to work drunk. It's only because they do favors after work or during work. Might be the weed man, might be the liquor man, I don't know. But at the same token, I want you to see the contrast. And this is the reason why we have to begin to deal with racism in the workplace. Not only just the church, but the workplace. Because when you begin to look at it, how is it that in certain sectors, a black person can make it in the first level management, second level management, mid management, but you really don't see that many at high level management? Some places, mid-level is all you gonna go. That's all they gonna give you. But then the crazy thing is that when you look at the ratio of promotion, when you look at it, sometimes, man, you gotta beware of that word diversity. Because diversity at times means everything but black. And that's the one thing that you have to look out for. And the crazy thing about it is that there are people out here that feel privileged and feel as though that diversity, and when you begin to have that conversation about, affirmative action, then that just means that it's reverse racism. And the crazy thing about it is that they feel as though that, hey, because of affirmative action, I got denied a job. How do you know that you was going to get that job? Seriously, how do you know? Because they have policies in place. You really can't say that, what if there was somebody more qualified than you? What if there was somebody that had more work experience than you? Nobody ever wants to talk about that. But the first thing they want to blame is black people and affirmative action. And the crazy thing about affirmative action, it works more for white women than it does anybody black. Seriously. But let's get back to the whole thing about the police. So my question is, if blue lives matter, then where are the police fighting for this officer? Matter of fact, where's the police union? Because we see the fight when there's an officer, a white officer, a rogue police officer that kills and shoots, kills by shooting, kills by strangulation, a black person, a person of color. You know what I'm talking about. So my question is that if you can show up for that party, police union, FOP, then you can show up for this party. But this is the miscarriage of justice that I tell you about. Because when it came to Muhammad Noor, where were they? He accidentally shoots a white woman and they vilify him and he goes to jail. So here it is. You have police officers that can get away with murder, still keep their jobs, but as soon as a black officer says the word nigger, he's fired? He's fired? I don't get that one. And so at the end of the day, this is what I mean about having to walk a fine line. And I tell guys, young black guys who come into where I work at, yo, dude, you can't do what they do. I'm serious. I remember sitting around one day, and this was like maybe a few years ago. And I mean, man, guys was ragging on Mexicans at my job. Ragging on them. And the crazy thing about it is that, I mean, everybody, he and ha, and I'm just looking around like, I wonder what they say when we're not here. And the crazy thing about it is that there were supervisors' doors open. Some of them were laughing, but not near one supervisor came out to say, yo, man, stop that. But yet, I work in an environment that's supposed to be heavy on diversity and keeping racial biases and prejudices out. But this is what is allowed. And so at the end of the day, those men are not here anymore, but we still have the same management. And the crazy thing is that this is what I mean when I say at times that there are certain problems that people try to say that don't exist. The only way they say that it doesn't exist is because they haven't been a victim of it. And the one thing that I will say is that when you're in a level of management, you're insulated at times. You can shut your door. You can leave the room. But you have to ask yourself, if I am a manager and I am trained, then why is it that, I'm okay with it? And then you have to ask, your minority employees at times, guys, what needs to be changed? Because I look at it like this. A lot of people feel as though all it is just shop talk. All it is shop talk. But I'm going to tell you, man, sometimes that shop talk can cross the line. And that's the God knows truth. And so this officer, he's picked up on his body camera saying the word nigger. But how many times have body cameras have picked up other things, and yet even though you see it, you still don't even use it in court? But this was used to fire this man. And this is what I mean about the hypocrisy in the workplace. Black man, black woman, you got to walk a fine line. But here it is. You have other people. They can do whatever the hell they want, and they have union backing. They will have however much it takes for them to keep their job. But you right here, first sign you messing up, and you ain't, in the group or in the clique, you out. And it's crazy. Because this is what we have seen. Seriously. This is what we have seen. And even with some of the cops that was, complacent and even participating in the January 6th insurrection, the cop that's taking a selfie with the insurrectionists. I'm like, really? What has happened to him? You ain't hardly hearing jack about him. Now, the black guy, yes, he got a medal. He escorted the vice president and everything. But why is it that we have to do above and beyond, at times, walk a fine line, just to get what everybody else is getting who don't even have to walk that fine line? Seriously. You have to ask yourself that. And so this is the reason why I'm talking about this today, because when you look at the history of the word nigger, and this is why I say that, yeah, it was used for black people. It was put upon black people as a burden. It was put upon them as a curse word to take the humanity out of them. And it gave, the person who gave the word, who said the word, it gave them protection. They didn't see the empathy anymore. They didn't have empathy. They didn't have a conscience towards the black body because of the word. And if I can take and, label you, I don't have to have compassion towards you. The black person became a thing. Just like a pet. Just like a dog, just like a cat, just like a chicken. You feel no type way when you can wring a chicken's neck, because the chicken's going to be on your plate. How many times, man, have the black body or the black man and woman been served up? Their children taken away, their children sold, their children raped, their men and women broken, raped for years. And this is all American history that nobody wants to talk about. And so this is the reason why I say what I say. This is why, man, that we have to change. This is the reason why we have to repair this. And this is the reason why I hold the church high on this. I'm serious. It starts with the church. Because the church promoted this white supremacy racism. Promoted it, helped it. Gave it a God stamp, gave it a God cosign. And at the end of the day, the black man was still in chains, and still is to a certain degree in chains today, when you sit and you finance your own oppression with tithes and offerings that use your money to support systems that still keep you in bondage. Nah, they ain't using the word nigger no more hardly out in the open like they used to, but it's still being used. And a lot of white people are mad because they feel as though that we should be able to have freedom of speech to use it. We should be able to use it in the workplace. We should be able to use it wherever we can, because we hear it in black people's music. We hear them say it to one another. But the crazy thing about it is that even if we say it to one another, it still doesn't hold the same vitriol and venom that it does and still do when white people say it. Seriously. Because at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, why is it that we have to have a nigger? Why is it that we had to create the nigger? The nigger was created because I needed a way to dislodge my conscience when I struck the whip. I needed a way to drown out and become deaf to the screams when I raped your daughter, your wife, or even when I broke the black man. I needed to be able to be clear of conscience and empathy and everything that could make me acknowledge your humanity. I had to take that out of the way. So I gave you nigger so I could do to you whatever I wanted to. Torture you, brand you, rape you, break you. Yes, I did that. That's what the white man needed. And he had to make the nigger a monster so that he could be the savior, so that he could be the hero of the day. That is why you have movies like Birth of a Nation. That is why you will never see that movie Cracker come on the screen. You won't see it. Because at the end of the day, the fear is what happened on January 6th. They were afraid that black people was going to do that. And you saw and you continue to see the militarization of black neighborhoods in response to protests. Now, I do not condemn or condone the burning of buildings, but the crazy thing I want you to know is this, is that rioting is the language of the unheard. But the one thing about January 6th is this, they were heard. They were heard in 60 some odd court cases and 2 Supreme Court cases. They were heard. But when it came to black lives and people wanting to have their day of justice, it fell on deaf ears. We're being told, trust the system. And so here it is. You fire a black cop for saying nigga, but you can choke out a nigga, shoot a nigga, beat a nigga, and still keep your job. That is hypocrisy at its finest. And all over the world that you feel as though that you should be able to say because of the First Amendment. Because of the Constitution. Free speech. But I'm going to tell you this, man. It may say free speech, but it ain't free. And some of those freedoms have conditions on them. And that's the one thing that we got to begin to wake up to. So black people, yes, educate yourself. See what happens in your workspace and place. Look at the policies. See what is allowed. See the patterns. But the one thing I want you to know is that you cannot complain about what you allow. And that's the God knows truth. So with that, I want you guys to be blessed. And we are out.
Walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.